Hey guys, and welcome to Anchor to Truth. Tonight we are diving into chapter 16 in the book of Jubilees. So let's get started.
All right, chapter 16, beginning in verse 1. And on the new moon of the 4th month, we appeared unto Abraham at the oak of Mamre, and we talked with him, and we announced to him that a son would be given to him by Sarah his wife. And Sarah laughed, for she heard that we had spoken these words with Abraham, and we admonished her, and she became afraid, and denied that she had laughed on account of the words. And we told her the name of her son, as his name is ordained and written in the heavenly tables, Isaac, and that when we returned to her at a set time, she would have conceived a son.
So right off the bat in verse 1, we've got we appeared unto Abraham. So obviously we're still referring to the angelic beings that's appearing before him.
Mhm.
Oak of Mamre. So something I found real quick on that, the Oak of Mamre. I don't know how legitimate this is, but just a quick little search online, I found this, which is supposedly that tree. I don't
Right.
know how true that is, but
So beautiful.
what do you guys know about this Oak of Mamre, or Mamre, the area itself, or what?
Yeah, Kyle, I kind of did the same thing you did. I did a quick search on it just to kind of get a better idea. You know, I know it pops up a few times throughout Scripture, and obviously we're seeing it here. One of the things that I found, it says in 1868, the site was purchased by the Church of Russia, and the Monastery of the Holy Trinity was built on the tree in the monastery courtyard.
Oh boy.
So lots of details. It seems like they're trying to put their stamp and their footprint on it. You know, when Abraham had nothing to do with Russia or Trinity or monastery or any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
I mean, being that, you know, Yeshua hadn't even yet walked the earth. So it's interesting that they try to buy that and, you know, kind of put their stamp on that location. But
I mean, it is cool that someone is trying to preserve what they believe to be the right tree. I mean, I guess that part of it's cool.
yeah, especially if it is.
I mean, it's it's seen better days.
Yeah. Like a few thousand years ago, better days. But you know, my only 2 cents on this tree, I'll be honest with you, whether it's the tree or not, just like the bones of Abraham were laid to rest, I think you need to lay this tree to rest, man. Just give it a break, man.
Let it go.
Let it go.
All right, let's move on. The next thing I want to point out over here is where it says, and Sarah laughed. Now, obviously, she's up there in age, right? I'm guessing has already gone through some womanly process, most likely. You know, typically we would look at that and we would say, okay, that's not possible for that to ever happen again, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, she laughed, and then later on down here, it says after they admonished her that she became afraid and denied the fact that she had laughed.
No, I didn't.
No. I was.
What's
just
funny?
it was nervous laughter.
Right.
Well, if you remember the story from Genesis, is Abraham's having this conversation with the 3 messengers, and I don't think she's just close enough to where she can hear the conversation, but I think she thinks, oh, they don't know I'm here, because I believe, if I remember correctly, she was inside her tent or something like that, heard the conversation that was going on. And so I don't think this was a mocking laugh or anything that was disrespectful to Jehovah. But what I think is, it was just like you said, Kyle, was like, am I at my age going to have a kid? Or, am I going to do it now? I mean, come on,
like a doubt kind of thing, like
right?
Really?
But I would have loved to seen her face though when the angels were like, "Hey, what are you doing over there laughing at us?" Oh, me? Oh, not me. I'm with you. I'm with you. Okay, I'm cool. That wasn't me. I wasn't laughing. It was probably my maidservant. She was laughing, and I will take care of her right now.
You know, I thought it was interesting too, like that we see, you know, each time a child of promise, it seems that when they come into play, you know, we look at Yeshua, we look at John the Baptist, now we're looking here at Isaac. The angels come and tell not only that you're going to conceive, not only that you're going to have a son, a child, but here's their name, right? So this is going to be a part of the history, as it says, is written on the tables. It's already written in advance. So you don't go around and call him Steve, right? His name is Isaac, because we already know that. This is technically history to us. It's future for you.
Right.
And so we already know. So whenever we come and tell you this, you know, hey, name him Yeshua, name him John, name him Isaac. That's because it's already written down. And I just think that's so cool when you see these prominent children of promise, that they are named and that they are already ready to go in the Bible story. That you might as well have written this down already, you know, 200 years before he was born, and they would have already known this is the exact facts, the exact details. It's going to be Abraham, it's going to be Isaac, it's going to be this year. So I just think that's so cool to see that play out that way.
I wonder if that's the reason why we see certain people in scripture with their names changed. Like Saul became Paul, Abram became Abraham. I wonder if it was one of those things where there was a still small voice spoken in their ear and they were like, oh, Abram, that sounds good. And the angels are like, no, I said Abraham, you know, or,
You were this close.
so close. And so they grow up, they go through the life and they're like, all right, we're going to correct this because this is going to be your name now. You know, I don't know. What do you guys think?
That's funny to think about.
Yeah, that was something I was going to bring up too with that. One, what's really cool about this though is the fact that, and I don't know if in the Bible I see this ever, or maybe it's in there, I don't remember, but multiple times in the book of Jubilees we have what is said to be written on the tables in heaven. Like this is like we have a hard copy in the heavenlies, and by the way, his name's already written down, and this is what his name will be. Just like I'm sure that when the messenger came before Mary and said, hey Mary, and you will call his name Emmanuel, God with us, and all that. So we know that there's something very important about this, that this isn't just like we're throwing a name out. This name means something. This name has a purpose. And just like what you were saying, Kyle, when it got changed from Abram to Abraham and from Sarai to Sarah, this is what I've understood over the years is God has actually placed his name now within their name. So when he renamed them, he's placing his name and his authority within their name. So I think that's where, you know, the significant part of that is God saying, you were called Abram, but now I'm gonna call you Abraham because I am with you and my name is going to be placed within your name. So I think it's very important.
I do see a distinction in some scriptures where it talks about a name versus, such as Yeshua. It says, and he shall be called, right? Called and his name, two different things.
Right. One's more of a title, I guess you could say, right? Maybe the whole
nickname. I mean, I don't know how that would. I don't know how that goes, but I did notice that when because that was something I questioned when I was looking at scripture. It's like, okay, we got Jesus in here, you know, looking at the most common versions of scripture, you know, Masoretic type stuff, you know, we've got Jesus as his name in there instead of Yeshua. But it tells us that he shall be called Emmanuel. And then they're like, oh, we're going to name him Jesus. And it's like, okay.
That was his middle name.
Or
it was
Yeshua.
Jesus Emmanuel.
Christ.
I thought his middle name started with an H. Sorry.
He was the first person with a middle name in the scriptures. It was Jesus, Jesus Emmanuel Christ.
Oh boy. All right, let's get back to it.
Yeah, I think when we look at verse 4, one of the cool things that pops out for me there is when it says that when we return to her at a set time. So I love the way that the language is kind of being thrown back and forth. It's like a past tense, future tense, present tense, all being lumped in these 4 verses here of like, this is what you will call them, but we already knew you were going to call them, but we are going to visit you as if we've already done it. And when they come back to visit, you know, you're going to have conceived a son. And so, you know, it's one of those things where there's like an additional detail, an additional promise, if you want to call that, for Sarah to say like, hey, not only are we asking maybe not a strong enough word, we're commanding you from the Father to do this, but we're going to come back and visit to make sure you did what you're supposed to do. We're going to kind of do a quick little checkup, right? It's like the supervisor. Hey, the boss says I got to go check and make sure everything's happening according to the plan. And they come back. All right, you had the son like we said. Yeah. All right, you named him Isaac. Cool. Hey, sands of the sea, stars of the sky. Let's go.
Absolutely. All right, guys, let's jump back into it. Let's start with verse 5. And in this month, Yahuwah executed his judgments on Sodom and Gomorrah and Zeboam and all the regions of the Jordan, and he burned them with fire and brimstone and destroy them until this day, even as I have declared unto thee their works, that they are wicked and sinners exceedingly, and that they defile themselves and commit fornication in their flesh and work uncleanliness on the earth. That's not a good resume for you right there. Let's see what kind of persons you are. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's not good.
Nope.
And in verse 6 it says, and in like manner Elohim will execute judgment on the places where they have done according to the uncleanliness of the Sodomites, like unto the judgment of Sodom. But Lot we saved, for Elohim remembered Abraham and sent him out from the midst of the overthrow. And he and his daughters committed sin upon the earth, such as had not been on the earth since the days of Adam till this time. For the man lay with his daughters, and behold, it was commanded and engraven concerning all his seed on the heavenly tables, to remove them and root them out, and to execute judgment upon them, like the judgment of Sodom, and to leave no seed of the man on the earth on the day of the condemnation.
Ooh. All right, I got it started last time, so I don't want to have all the fun. What y'all got on this one?
Yeah, I'll jump off right away. So we're looking at verse 5, and we've probably all very familiar with the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? We've heard the story. It's just two, the end of the story. But here we're saying Sodom, Gomorrah, Zeboim, and all the region of the Jordan. So it's 3 cities and a whole bunch of region, right? So this is a really big deal. This is a really big occasion where you could maybe see a little bit why Lot's wife would turn around. This isn't just 2 cities like we think it is, even though that's already way more than anything that's happened today. But this is a whole region. And, as we continue to read through that portion that we just went through, we kind of would like to look at our world today and say, man, the world is just so bad. It's the worst it's ever been. Apparently not. Apparently there was something going on back then. God said, I need to blow this up with fire and brimstone. No city in the world today is being blown up by fire and brimstone. So if that's the way he executes judgment on people that go to that extreme, as it said, they were sinning exceedingly, we must not have yet made it to that level, at least in my opinion, because he's not exacting that same kind of judgment in our world today. Maybe in a different form or different fashion, but he's not blowing whole regions up just down to the ground in ash like we see here. So yeah, that's not a good time to be from that region.
Yeah.
Well, they went on with their practice for years and years before judgment came.
Exactly.
So they had plenty of time in the process. So to say that those things aren't happening now, might just be a waiting period before the judgment.
It might be on the way.
It's just time is a ticking.
Hey, Kyle, can you pull up a picture of what they believe to be Sodom and Gomorrah?
Sure.
So, yeah, guys, right here in this picture we're looking at is what they believe to be once Sodom and Gomorrah right here. And, just again, going back to verse 5 at the bottom, it says, and he burned them with fire and brimstone and destroyed them until this day. And until this day, guys, look, there's nothing grows here. There's nothing there whatsoever. It's totally desolated. And it's just, yeah, Jonathan, me and you have had private conversations about this, how not only this one area, but it looks like, here in Jubilees, it sounds like this area was much larger than just the 2 cities.
Yep.
Because when you back out and you look at this, you're like, oh my gosh, this is like everything within miles is dead of this area. And it's like God put his stamp on us. He's like, guess what? There will not be anything else here. This will always be as a constant reminder of what I did. Mm-hmm. And Kyle, let's take a look at that other picture. Wow. Look at that thing there. This is what they believe to be Lot's wife. What do you guys think about that? Isn't she lovely?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's interesting that that people would think that. It's a neat thing to point out so that it might draw attention, right? But I don't think that this is her, because this falls in line with the same surrounding city that we see. It's as if it was stone that was turned to ash, where she was turned into a pillar of salt. Right. So I can't imagine that any salt would have been left standing upright for any amount of time, even if there had not been any rain in that region ever since. I can't imagine there not being any wind. So I just can't imagine a pillar of salt still remaining to this day.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this looks like the remnants of the stone stuff. So this was probably a statue of some kind of monument to some god that they had or something.
I was literally thinking of the Asherah pole when you said that. So that's funny that you said monument.
Yeah, absolutely.
But cool though.
Yeah.
I'm sure it gets some attention for the tourists.
And if it points people back to the Bible and the Bible story.
Well, here's the cool part about this: the different people who've went into this region exploring this. To this day, you can go there and they'll take a little pocket knife or something. They'll pull out the sulfur balls that are still there.
Yep. And
I've seen it where they'll light it and it still burns.
Mm-hmm. And stank.
Like, oh, I bet it does. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So yeah, this is another one of the things that, for the longest time in my life, it never really got a lot of traction with this area. But then at some point, because of explorers like Ron White and different people going in there and saying, you know what, I think this is what this is. And very well probably is exactly what it is.
Well, the next thing I wanted to bring up is down here. It says in verse 5, at the end of verse 5, it's talking about they are wicked and sinners exceedingly, and that they defile themselves and commit fornication in their flesh and work uncleanliness. So I was just curious if you guys had any examples of the difference in those three things.
Yeah, Kyle, what you were saying about the three different things, immediately what jumps into my mind is, it starts off with defiling yourself. So it starts with like the inner man of who you are and maybe what you're doing in your mind, what you're eating, things that would affect just you as a person. Fornication seems to be something that, can have many different facets and can go many different directions, but definitely seems like it's starting to now spread and permeate outside of yourself. And now you're causing problems in your local area with other people and other situations. And then working on cleanliness. Wow, does the Bible talk so much about being clean and what is clean, what is holy, what is set apart? If they're doing work and working in areas and things that are unclean, whether it be dietary, whether it be ceremonial, whether it be temple practice, and there's so many categories of our lives we could be considered unclean. If they're doing that as part of their just day-to-day life, if they're doing things that are unclean, they're constantly around unclean, the way that they live, the way that they act, their speech, and all of that can be considered work of uncleanliness. So I think, when we line this up against God's standard, they were falling short in all these areas, and they said they were doing it exceedingly. So they were doing a bad job a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if with Lot too, I mean, he's been under the tutelage of Abraham for a little while before he came to this place. And maybe there was an opportunity at one point for Lot to maybe shine some of that light into this place of darkness. But unfortunately, when we read the story of this in Genesis, Lot's actually pulled into it a lot more. I think he's less of an influence, or they're more of an influence on him and his family. And we see this play out later with the fact that when they leave, the only three that make it out is Lot and his two daughters. The rest of the family's gone. They didn't heed the warning that they should have. As a matter of fact, at one point, it's the way it's written. They laughed at him like, yeah, whatever. Oh yeah, God's going to destroy this whole place. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. And I'm sure they weren't laughing anymore though when the whole place was burning down. But so like the work of uncleanliness on the earth, one of the things that I would say that comes in my mind first is not letting the land rest. That they were not following any of the things that the Father had prescribed for people to do on the earth, and that they were probably not letting the land rest. All their wickedness, there could have been a shedding of blood, just like with Cain and Abel. When Cain kills Abel and his blood is in the earth, and it said that his blood cries out from the earth. I mean, I think that there's the fact that there's so much fornication and wickedness within these people that their uncleanliness it's enough that this was brought before the heaven, and God says, I got to do something about it. I can't allow this to continue on in the pace in which it is going. And so that's another reason why I think that we see such a harsh judgment or execution of judgment of the Father upon this people group.
Well, I do see something that I don't know if it's necessarily a different point of view, but just something that I've kind of noticed. And I don't know, y'all just tell me what you think. So when I see defile themselves, commit fornication in their flesh, and work uncleanliness or uncleanness, this is listed as three separate things. And we can see each one of these things individually throughout Scripture. And it just, to me, it's as if it's saying, defile themselves. This is a private, individual thing that's happening maybe in secret, whether it be in their hearts or an action taken. Then commit fornication in their flesh. This is more of a someone else is involved or other people are involved, but it's still a private matter and it's sinful in nature to whatever that is. It's a physical action taking place, not just in their hearts, that sort of thing. It's definitely in their flesh. And then the third thing, the work uncleanness on the earth, that's a very open and public thing. So it's to me, it seems as if it's the process of how we allow sin to infect our lives, how it becomes the thought, it's the thought, it's in the heart, it becomes the action, and it becomes what everyone should accept. I don't know, that's just kind of the way I see this.
Yeah, and one of the examples we have in Genesis again is when the two messengers show up, and Lot's trying to get them out the city. He's like, y'all got to go. I'm paraphrasing, but he's basically saying, hey, it was good to see you, but you got to go. And they look at him and go, no, we're spending the night and we're going to stay with you. And he's like, oh, because he already knows the heart of the people that are there. And we see that played out immediately when the men show up around Lot's house. And what do they want to do? They want to fornicate with the two messengers, the two angels. As a matter of fact, you see Lot, instead of handling it, I think, in the better way, he offers up his virgin daughter, for the sake of these two guys. And it's like, but so you see that the wickedness in this city was so extreme that these two messengers show up and they want to have relations with them right there on the spots.
Yeah.
Wicked.
All right. And in verse 6 down here, I wanted to point out this says, and in like manner, God will execute judgment on the places where they have done according to the uncleanness of the Sodomites, like unto the judgment of Sodom. In other words, there's going to be a future event that takes place like this. Keep that in mind as we continue to study.
So yeah, Joe, you were talking about a minute ago the two angels showing up there at Lot's house. And what's interesting is in verse 7, we're going to see it says, but Lot we saved. So again, we're getting that plural of whatever was happening, whoever showed up, it's we. So these are the angels, more than likely, that literally showed up, these angels of presence that are literally showing up and saying, hey, Lot, we saved Lot. This could have went bad for him. He could have made a different choice. He could have not had this opportunity to show some hospitality, but he remembered his time with Abraham, his uncle, where he was remembering this is how we're supposed to act. This is how we're supposed to interact. And even though I'm in this city, even though I'm literally like pretty much staring evil in the face, I kind of know my roots. I kind of know where I came from a little bit. And what is Elohim? What it says here, for Elohim remembered Abraham. So Lot's just kind of a player in the story. He's not a main character apparently, because it says, yeah, we saved Lot. Why? Well, because we remembered Abraham. And you're like, wait, what about Lot? And he's like, no, because of Abraham. That's why we saved Lot. And so it's always kind of a good thing to note there that, Abraham was such a figurehead for his family and for anybody that was around him, that he had enough good in his life and enough positive in his life that it spilled over into others. And I'm reminded of the example of Job. Job would give sacrifice for himself and for all his children, his wife, for everybody. He was like, I want to be as holy and as set apart as possible. I want to make sure everybody around me is holy and set apart. Whatever I can do to make the situation better. And Abraham was given that exact example. Hey, God, what if I can find this many people? What if I can find this many people? Come on. What if we just get anybody? And it's awesome to see that Abraham's like, I literally love these people so much. I'm trying my best. I'm trying to be that light. I'm trying to be that example. And I think that's where the Father really honors it. Abraham in this situation, he's like, yeah, Lot, that's your relative. And I understand that you went forth and you really petitioned for him. I'll send the angels and they will save him on your account.
Yeah. And if we remember too, guys, in the story in Genesis, when the one angel is left back, the one messenger is left back with Abraham, and he says, should I tell him? Should I tell him what's going to about? Yeah, we got to tell him. We can't let this happen. And then he's going to be like, why didn't you tell me this was going to happen? So there was a little bit of that little moment of, because of Abraham's relationship with Elohim. And that's right there in Jubilees says, but Lot we say, for Elohim remembered Abraham. He's like, you know what? He's considered a friend of Elohim. And he's like, I got to let him know that this is what's about to befall where his nephew lives. And so then you see, of course, like you were just referring to, Jonathan, with Abraham, where he's now trying to say, hey, if there's 20 righteous, if there's, he keeps going down the line. And I think Abraham at some point is going, how many people's in Lot's family? Is his daughters? It could be Mary too. So let's add in that number too. So if there's 10, would you save the city? And God's like, you know what, for you, Abraham, I want y'all to think about this. We just read all of this wickedness that's taking place. It's bad. But God himself said, you know what? For your sake, Abraham, if there is 10 righteous in this city, I'll save. That says a lot. For that relationship that Abraham had with the Father, that he would be willing to back off his destruction and his judgment on them, for the sake of Abraham. So this is a lot, I think, a lot more involved in what we think.
All right, so wow. Yeah, we see Abraham's awesome. Lot gets to be the beneficiary of Abraham being awesome. And then what happens? Unfortunately, it seems like the case with humanity is we find a way to mess up. We find a way to do something that we're not supposed to do. So Lot and his daughters survive. The wife is now a pillar of salt. And they decide we need to have some sons. Well, what are we going to do? It's just us two. The world must be blown up and destroyed. We're the only 3 people left, apparently. Well, there's a guy and there's 2 girls. We can solve this problem. We can repopulate the whole world. Who knows what they were thinking? Obviously not the right answer, because here it's telling us clearly that what they did was they committed sin, right? So this was something they were not supposed to do. This was not a good thing. God did not request, or command them to do any of the sort. Yeah, so we see more of the story unfold in verse 8, where it says, and he and his daughters committed sin upon the earth, such as had not been on the earth since the days of Adam till his time. So this is something that was just so off, so wrong, that it hadn't even happened. This is so far out of norm, so far out of anything that God would have asked for, commanded, instructed, or anything like that, because it did say that it was sin. So we got to define what sin is and know that was transgression. They did something they weren't supposed to do. And it's just really interesting to see that, you coming right out of that event, that's something so awesome. They were blessed, they were saved, right? They made it out, and then now they went right into something that they weren't supposed to do, and actually, in actuality, something worse than what the city just got destroyed for, because this hadn't even happened yet. So yeah, I just find that very, very telling, very interesting to kind of see how that all played out there.
Yeah, and the last part that I have highlighted down here comes straight out of what you were talking about, and I think it's so important that we bring this up. It says, "For the man lay with his daughters, and behold, it was commanded and engraven concerning all his seed on the heavenly tables to remove them and root them out, and to execute judgment upon them, like the judgment of Sodom."
Yep.
And to leave no seed of the man on earth on the day of condemnation. And what is that? We're talking about judgment here. We're talking about something that is still yet to come. So we still have seed from this coming down the line now. This will be rooted out on the day of condemnation.
Yeah, this is one of the times too, Kyle, where I would like my name written into the heavenly tables on the books, but not for this,
Right.
So we see that everything, whether it's good or bad, everything is recorded that is done here on earth is written down on the tables in the heavenly. So
well, one other thing I wanted to point out on this is we have the end times prophetic information telling us of a third of things being burnt up. And we have these giant hailstones coming down and raining fire and mingled and mixed with blood and all kinds of. That's wild. I don't want to be nowhere near them.
No, not at all.
So yeah, in this story, we get such a dichotomy between the two characters of Lot and Abraham. Abraham comes in, kind of saves the day for Lot and his family. Lot makes the bad choice, and he kind of gives up some of this blessing, some of this honor that he would have had being associated with and being a part of the line with Abraham. You see, Abraham to this day is listed as one of our patriarchs. We serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Lot's name could have been thrown in there somewhere. We don't know where exactly, because he's not in the direct lineage or a child, but he definitely would have been somebody we would talk highly of. But instead, we're reading it like this now. So whenever we look at these two situations, we're kind of given one or the other. So I say, as we're reading through this and as we're thinking through what we do in our lives and how we act and interact, let's be Abraham. Let's not be a Lot. Let's go into the world. Let's be a light. Let's have our name being written down. Let's have our name being something of honor and glory, and something where ultimately we can show the Father's love for us by the way we love one another, just the way Abraham showed his family there.
Amen.
Amen. All right. With that, guys, we will see you next time for part 2 of chapter 16 in the book of Jubilees. God bless.
Shalom.